Good afternoon, everybody. It's a beautiful sunny Tuesday in Burlington, Ontario today. Last week at this time, I was at home in a snowstorm. So certainly a big change in the weather this week. And it got me feeling restless. You know what I'm saying? Like my inner teenager had to do something. So on the weekend, my husband said, I told him I needed a change with the hair and I wanted to put some pink in it again. And he said, I'll do it for you. So we had so much fun. We were laughing our heads off. We had the rock music on blaring, and I'm very happy with the hair. Anyway, you guys, I'm so excited you're here. I also want to show you, before I start talking about our guest, I have this fabulous dress on today from Brenda Bedome. And it's so comfy, and I've got it on with my high boots and my funky little tights here. And it is soft, lovely, wonderful. And I have some good news for you guys. Brenda and I are teaming up, and we're doing a fun little giveaway for Valentine's Day. So be sure to check out social media tomorrow and see what it is we're up to. But as a reminder to you, if you want to shop Brenda's site, you can use the coupon code Get to Know Her for 21% off of your order, which is so generous of her. And that's for all of our viewers and listeners. So make sure you take advantage of that. And now I want to introduce the amazing, wonderful, generous, beautiful, lovely Elana Johnson. I'm so excited she's going to be on the show with us today. Before I bring her on, I'm going to just read a little bit about her to you. She is the founder of Baubles and Baubles, which is a beautiful Valentine's event that I actually have participated in for a few years now, and it helps to raise money for the London Children's Hospital Foundation. We're also going to chat with Elana about her career and what it was like from studying and practicing midwifery starting in 1979 to becoming the only practicing midwife in London and its surrounding area for several years. Elana was there with a team of women who developed the Midwifery Task Force of Ontario. She has so much to share with us today about how midwifery became legally regulated in Canada, starting with Ontario back in 1994. This is going to be such a great conversation. So let's not wait. Let's bring her on right now. There she is.
Hello.
Hello. How are you, Elana? It's hard to get used to this StreamYard thing, eh?
Yeah. It's really different, but I'm doing my best here.
No, it's great. I had that trouble, and every time I have someone on, it's like we're both going in the wrong direction because you think you're looking in a mirror, but
it's different than Zoom, which of course. Yeah, I do all my meetings by Zoom now, as it does the rest of the world. Boy, that was a great thing to create, wasn't it?
Oh my gosh. Don't you wish you were the CEO of Zoom right now?
Yeah, maybe not.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I think the difference too with this is you can actually, like, if you had a mug, well, mine just has a happy face on it, but if it said something, you'd be able to read it in the proper way instead of it being flipped.
Well, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I showed you the wrong side. Yeah.
I have to tell you before we start that
Yeah.
all three of my little dogs are here with us in my office.
Great.
And if someone were to happen to drop a package at the door, which happens from time to time, they might start to bark. If they do, fine. You should put me on mute until I give you the thumbs up.
No problem. And this is the fun thing about going live, is that we actually get to experience real life, which I think is great. Yeah. We're all doing this together. So any interruptions are okay.
It's true, isn't it?
Yeah. So are you excited about next week?
You know,
your first.
I am. Yeah. I'm excited, and I'm a little bit nervous, of course, because you have, as you said, participated in this event for many years. This year will be the 11th year of this event. Wow. It's really quite astounding. And I know collectively over the years, we've raised more than $100,000 for Children's Hospital. And as you know, the atmosphere that everyone creates in Barney's here in London, which is an iconic property. If you
Oh, I
went to
love
Western
it.
University, you know about Barney's. And Barney's is incredibly generous because they donate the space for this event. And that's why
Wow.
we can raise so much money, is everyone's so generous with their heart and soul and you know what they bring to the table. So we create this warm, intimate atmosphere. And when you walk in, as you know, it's just like
Yeah.
bling
Oh, yeah. Everything's
off the
so
table,
sparkly.
all the
Yeah.
sparkle. So, you know, I'm a little anxious because I don't think we'll be able to capture that intimacy and warmth in the same way in a virtual event, but we will certainly be capturing all the beautiful sparkles.
Yeah. Well, I think you will. I mean, you are like I always say to you, you're like the fairy godmother of this beautiful event and all these jewelers coming together and we all adore you and
Mm,
we love your energy and I think that will just transcend into the virtual space, you know?
we'll
It's
do
going to
our
be
very
wonderful.
best. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
for
is. And
sure.
boy, I just, as I was thinking about it, I said to the Children's Hospital Foundation, you know, I think this event lends itself to a virtual format. I
Yeah.
really do. I think we can do it. And now more than ever, always we need to be raising money. 100% of all new equipment purchased for Children's Hospital here in London is made through the money raised by the Children's Health Foundation. A
Wow.
100%. So
Incredible.
yeah, and it's actually doesn't just service London specifically. It's all of the catchment area in Western Ontario and as far north as Thunder Bay. So as
Oh,
a referral center, as a regional center of expertise and excellence, we really need to provide all these kids with the best care that
yeah.
evidence and technology and medical advancement can provide. So that's
Oh,
really what we're doing by raising this
yeah.
money.
I'm
Yeah.
so glad that you explained that because I didn't realize how far the reach was.
Mm.
That's
Yeah,
incredible.
it
Yeah.
is.
Oh,
Yeah.
good for you. Yeah, it's going to be a great evening and we're going to raise lots of money. And this is what's so wonderful too is we need women in communities who, you've been doing this face to face for all these years. The virtual platform is something brand new to you. And for all of us who are, on virtual platforms now where perhaps we didn't have to be before, it's quite daunting and intimidating and all the rest
Yeah.
of it. But, it's so amazing when women like yourself say, well, you know what, that's a secondary thing. Like I need to get over it to do this because COVID is COVID. It's here right now, but raising money for children, that doesn't go away because COVID is here. Like we got to do everything we can to fight for this. And you've fought for
That's
a
right.
lot of stuff in your life. Oh my gosh, I'm so
Yeah.
excited to talk to you about your journey. But before we get there, I have to ask you the question I ask all my guests, Elana, and that is, what did little Elana want to be when she grew up?
You're not going to believe what I wanted to be when I grew up. So
Yeah.
I grew up on a farm. I'm a farm girl,
Okay. Yeah.
just outside of Guelph, Ontario.
Oh no.
And so I'm a farm girl whose closest urban area was at the time, not so much anymore, but at the time, a small town. Just to give you some context.
Yeah.
And I knew what I didn't want to be. I did not want to be living the farm life for all of my life. It's a wonderful life, don't get me wrong. And
Mhm.
I learned so much and love every minute of it. But it's a hard life.
Yeah.
And there was a seed in me from the beginning of my life that knew there was a bigger world out there that I wanted to explore. So it really did. I mean, I've traveled and I've seen the world, and I'm very, very grateful for that. What you might call a little bit of restlessness there.
Yeah.
But really, as a kid, I was very into arts, all of the arts,
Okay.
music lessons from the age of 5, and by the time I got to high school, I said to my mom, I don't want to take piano lessons anymore. I want to take singing lessons. And bless her
Wow.
heart, my mom said, absolutely, we'll find a way to do that. And she did. And so
Oh,
all through high school, I got to take singing lessons. And that's a really interesting thing because the teacher she found, remember it's Guelph, Ontario, years and years and years ago,
yes.
taught opera. But
Wow.
this kid from the country wanted to do rock and roll.
Of course. What was the kid from the country's favorite band then? Do you remember? What were
Oh my
you?
God. Well, depends at what age.
So when you
This,
first said I want to sing, do you remember who were you like who was
you know,
inspiring you?
Jerry and the Pacemakers, the
Yeah.
Beatles, the Stones, and then Joan Baez and Joni Mitchell and all of the
Oh,
folk sort of moved into it. I
yeah.
didn't win that tussle with my voice teacher. We met in the middle, or so she thought. And so I learned the entire Rodgers and Hammerstein musical library. To her, that was modern music,
Oh,
as well as
wow.
some opera. But I really did, for some of those years, think deep down in my heart, and I've never revealed this to anyone before, that I would like to be a singer. But along
Wow.
the way, and so I was in every high school musical. I had,
Oh,
along with a couple of other classmates, a folk band. We'd perform at the school. I did a lot of singing in those years. But
yeah.
as I went through high school in the senior years, I fell in love with Canadian literature.
Wow.
Absolutely in love with Canadian literature, and had the good fortune to have a couple of excellent English and literature teachers, and the opportunity to take more than one course in my senior years, one that specifically focused on Canadian literature. So by the time I was off to university, I thought I'd be a Canadian literature professor. But life had different plans for me.
Yeah, I mean, did it ever?
Did it ever? Yeah.
Wow. So 1979 is when all of that changed for you,
Yeah.
correct?
Well,
And
actually in 1978, because that's when my first
okay.
son was born.
Oh,
And
okay.
when it became through that process apparent to me that women needed more choices, that all was not well in the experience of birth.
Yeah.
Remember, I'm a girl from the country. And
Yeah.
I knew that because my father taught me at an early age, when we'd all take our turn in the spring helping out with animals that were giving birth, that when
Of
you were
course.
there, you had to be very quiet, that the best thing you could do was be there in case you were needed to intervene. But
Mm-hmm.
otherwise, the best thing was if the mother didn't even know you were there, because any kind of sense from her end that your presence was in the vicinity would slow the process down.
Oh, that's so powerful.
It was very powerful.
Wow.
It was very powerful. And so between the birth of my first son and my second, I
Mm.
did a lot of learning about how to bring that appreciation for the process and the
Mhm.
patience with the process to my own experience in my second birth. There were no midwives in my town. By now I lived in London. There was no one.
There was
And
no one.
no
Wow.
one. There were three doctors who were attending home births,
Hmm.
two that were trained in Holland and one in Britain. Actually, it might have been he and his wife. And so I was actually planning that. But then just before I was about to give birth, um, that doctor who was trained in Britain said to me, they've threatened to remove my hospital privileges if I don't stop attending home births.
Oh, wow.
So I ended up laboring for a good part of that labor and birth on my own at home
Mhm.
until, I knew that I was not going to be in the hospital too long.
Oh, good for you. Wow, that you're very brave to do that because
Went in and had that
yeah.
baby. No, it
But
wasn't bravery. No, no, it
no.
wasn't. It was not wanting to replicate the first experience the second time, and knowing
Mm.
I had my doctor behind me.
Okay.
100%. He was trained in Britain where there were all sorts of midwives. The Dutch doctors too. I just chose not to switch to one of those so late in the pregnancy. So he met me. I'd been in touch with him, and he met me, and everything went really, really well. And from that point on, I had encouragement from a number of angles, different people encouraging me to consider going the route of training and midwifery. Yeah.
Amazing. And so there was one time where you were pretty much the primary contact for London for this.
It's true. You know, in the entire province, there were only about 50 of us practicing in the 80s.
Amazing.
Debbie Smith in Sarnia was the only one in Sarnia. Elsie Cressman in Kitchener, and then a few others. The closer you got to Toronto, it seemed, the more there were a few more. And Toronto had even more. And we all started out by working with these Dutch trained doctors pretty much, or physicians who were comfortable. And of course, we weren't regulated. We weren't illegal. We were just illegal. So if someone had to go to the hospital or chose to go to the hospital, we could not act as primary caregivers there.
Okay, I see. Wow.
Until we got the regulations and legislation in place in 1994.
Yeah, amazing. So Ontario was the first province?
It was.
And I was doing a little bit of background. I just went on YouTube just to get some information, and I was surprised to see that some provinces, you know, as far back as 2016, still hadn't been regulated. So are they all now?
I think the Yukon just got, I believe they are, but don't quote me.
The Yukon, you're right. The Yukon was one of the last, and so was PEI.
And PEI.
PEI, yeah.
But you know, I've been so privileged to meet women working in the field over these many years from all these provinces, and they are inspirational without a doubt. And I think about Newfoundland, where, you know, there are remote areas and First Nations and Inuit communities where midwives have always been and always practiced, and we have much to learn. But we also, one of the things we really need to learn is to respect and honor their own traditions and wisdom and expertise. So a lot of that is happening in the field as well. And I've been retired from clinical practice now for many years, but I am exceedingly proud of our profession, that it continues to lead the way in ensuring that respectful and you know, honoring of the birth process and those that are giving birth is central to the work.
Wow. So I'm trying to wrap my head around you in like 1979, 1980, going through this and sort of being like really like a lone wolf out there, because there weren't many other people doing it. And to me, that would be like you know, you would want to have like a mentor. And I know your doctor was very supportive, and you had that kind of background, even with animals. I think that's a huge part of it, because you learned, you know, you learned that what you were explaining before about just letting the mother do what the mother needs to do.
Yeah, it's a respect for the process, right? And
yes.
One of the sayings that I've always valued about birth, whether you're a midwife, a nurse, an obstetrician, a family physician, it doesn't matter. This holds true, that birth is essentially a life experience that sometimes becomes a medical experience. And it's that balance of knowing and being ready to intervene and act appropriately to promote the best outcome for both the person giving birth and the person being born, and being in the right place at the right time. So that takes training, that takes skill, that takes experience. And we're very proud of midwifery in Ontario and Canada. You know, we have one of the finest systems in the world. And that's in part because, although you're right, I was on my own setting up the practice initially. I never felt alone. And that's because midwifery is essentially a grassroots movement, Monica. It was at the time primarily women, but also, their partners and others that joined together to say, we need broader choices. We want, at the time in 1980, 1990, obstetric care had been fragmented. A lot of family physicians were choosing not to do deliveries, and so women would see one clinician for their prenatal care, another clinician in the late pregnancy, and then one of a call group they may or may not have met for the actual birth, and several nurses depending on how long the process was. So there were a lot of people motivated to have a familiar provider and a continuity of care. So the model is really built on women making informed choices, providing that information to them, and I say women, but women and their families, or we're really learning a lot about transgenderism and identity, and we need to expand. And I'm always learning. I'm a grandmother who's learning to expand my vocabulary to be inclusive and include everyone equally and respectfully. So I always, have to keep reminding myself not to fall into the patterns that we're used to, because we're used to exclusive patterns rather than inclusive patterns of speech. But that grassroots movement, it's what made the difference. The political pressure brought to bear from the community of consumers, really, the clients of those of us that were providing the model, brought about that pressure to get attention, to say, yes, this can bring advantage, good outcomes, cost savings. We need to regulate it. That's in a nutshell,
Wow. It's absolutely amazing to me. And I think, it's so interesting. I didn't have children myself, so I didn't know a lot about this because it never affected my own life. But I've had friends who have chosen midwives, and I didn't know until, we started talking and I was doing a little bit of research. I always thought, well, the midwife comes in and holds the woman's hand while she's giving birth and she's there for extra support. I had no idea that you actually are there for the pregnancy, for the labor, for the birth, and then for postpartum. It's the whole package. You're really there to support the woman through all of it.
And one of the equity issues, Monica, from the start was that it should be funded.
Yeah.
And that too was achieved.
So was that achieved in 94, or did that come later?
In 94, absolutely. Along with regulation and proclamation came a system of funding midwifery care that has not always kept up with the original intent for where it should be. And we think that's likely primarily because it is, it falls into that category of gendered work compensation lagging behind. As a female-dominated profession.
Right.
So really, in the last several years, midwives, through their association, mounted a human rights complaint about that gendered, inequality for compensation, and the judgment was made in favor, understanding that indeed there was discrimination in how compensation for midwives was neglected.
Wow.
Yeah. So
amazing.
Again, leading the way, or choosing to forge a path to help other women in other professions. Also
incredible. Yeah, that's incredible. And so I guess that's okay. No problem.
There we go.
So I was just, so I guess it was Pierre Trudeau was the prime minister when all this was. No?
No.
Who was
in
prime
1994?
Sorry, no, in 1980, earlier.
Oh, yes.
In 79, 80.
I think he wasn't any longer. Boy, you're asking my
No, I know. I was just like, I was
way
thinking,
back.
was he still there then? My mom's watching now. She knows exactly.
Yeah, good. She can tell us.
Yeah.
No, I know that Kim Campbell was briefly at one point.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, that's amazing. Here we go. Yeah. And I guess, well, it was Brian Mulrooney in like 83. Yeah, yeah, no problem. Oh yeah, no problem.
No.
This is so fascinating, you guys. I love this. I'm not going to mute Elana because I love the sound of the doggies.
This is the guy.
Hi, Guy.
This guy, he thinks he's the brave defender. Yes.
Oh, he is. I can see it in his eyes.
Yeah. He's a very sweet boy. So we have 3.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love my children, but boy, do I love my dogs.
Oh my God. I know. The dogs are so precious.
They are.
Yeah. That's amazing. Oh gosh. So Elana, I wanted to also ask you about a long time ago. I was going for a walk with a girlfriend of mine, and she was living here temporarily from Germany, and she had 2 small children, and they were 5 and 3, I think, at the time. And so at that time in my life, I was still kind of on the fence about whether or not I was going to have kids. And I said to her, you know, I just made some dumb comment like, oh my God, if I ever have kids, like I want them to IV me before I even go into labor so I don't have to feel any pain. And she said to me, she said, you know, in Germany, they don't offer you an epidural. Like it's as a very last resort, because there's a real strong belief that chemically what happens in the mother's brain during childbirth is so important, and that can be numbed out with drugs. So she said it's not like in North America where it's very common to say, yes, I want the epidural, where you're asked up front. The doctor will give it to you if he thinks you need it, but it's not really, most women want to deliver, you know, without that. So I was surprised to hear that. I thought, wow.
That's really cool. Well, there's definitely a strong cultural component to how we perceive life events. Yeah. And I think one of the outcomes of medicalizing a life event like birth is not knowing, not having a deep understanding of the process. And then that increases fear, that fear of the unknown. And also hearing stories that are unsettling. But as a midwife, I feel that, yes, there's definitely a lot of hormonal changes that happen that support the whole process of initial postpartum. And we want to do everything we can to preserve those. However, you know, the hormones of fear and what pain and all the cortisols might release can also run interference. But what, as a midwife, I would say is that I want those who are giving birth to make the best choice for themselves, whether it's around pain relief, place of birth, how you have that baby. It's their life experience. And practitioners should be there to provide as much information and as much support for what is their best process, given, you know, the parameters of if complications happen, there are certain things that have to happen. But I don't know. We would provide any form of pain relief that was, or make sure it got provided by consulting with an anesthetist. Everything is possible with the midwifery model of care, but you have, I would say, a lot of options as well to manage that pain. And place where you choose to give birth also impacts your perception of that pain. Right. Where you're most comfortable, where you feel safest, I think really matters.
Oh, for sure. I could see that. Yeah. And you know what I'd love to know? I'd love to know how you were feeling, or what was sort of going on the first time that you were there for a woman giving birth, like your very first client. What was that whole experience like?
You are going back a long
way. Do you remember? Or is there a certain woman?
It's a big mix. I do remember, actually.
Yeah.
But it's not just one feeling.
Right.
There are a lot of feelings. And those feelings were you know, really, those feelings, I'm distracted because someone just knocked on the door.
Oh, that's okay. You can go get the door. I can keep talking to people
I might have
if you
to.
need to. That's no problem.
I might have to. My husband was supposed to answer the door, but he too is working. You met him.
Yeah, I met him earlier. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
no
I will be
problem.
right back. Hold that
No
thought. My
problem. I
feelings
will
of a bird's
hold
birth.
that thought. Yeah, and you know what, you guys, for those of you who are watching, if you have any questions about this, please put them up here on Facebook Live, and we will ask Elana your questions, because we still have a good 20 minutes to talk to her. So it's quite fascinating, and it's so amazing to be talking to Elana. This is a woman, a Canadian woman, who changed history for all of us, you know, to give us more choices, to give us more options, to be heard as women in what we need for when it comes to childbirth. And I feel sort of weird saying we, because I didn't have children, but you know, for all of my friends who've had kids, who have used midwives, who've had the, I don't want to say privilege, but that who were able to deliver their children at home. I've heard the most amazing stories from these friends, and that's all happened. And you know, now that this funding came to be in 1994, these women, you can do that. So, Elana, I was just saying how amazing it is to talk to you and to meet someone who's changed history for women, for God's sakes. Like,
well, together with all of my colleagues and all the women who believed and chose and supported it, like, I could never.
Yeah, you can't single-handedly, but still, you're a big part of the, you know, you were going to be a rock star. You were going to be opening up for Mick Jagger, and we got to have you instead.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. So, you know, and so music, but all of arts. I mean, I took art. I did all of the arts. It was a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
But any job I've ever had in my life has really been dependent most on science. But midwifery blends both of them, I think. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about this in anticipation of our interview. Really, it's about our autonomy, isn't it? It's really about self-expression.
Yeah.
And that self-expression helps us affirm who we are and strengthen our sense of being and autonomy. Mm-hmm. And honestly, that part of my work as a midwife, to witness that process as women claimed that for themselves, was one of the most rewarding things. So back to, you know, the very first one of the overwhelming feelings was humility and a sense of awe that I would get to witness and be part of that. And that never left me. Also fear, anxiety. What the heck was I doing? I was supposed to be an English prof. All those things.
Right. Yeah. And that's something women are talking about more and more now, is that, you know, that some people call it imposter syndrome, where it's like, you're doing this thing, you're making a difference, and then you're going, oh my God, what am I doing? Who am I to be doing this? Or, right? It's
100%, 100%.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how much training, you know, and seeking it in other countries. We set up a program, a university program that's deemed to be one of the finest. But, you know, when it really comes down to it, I think we all, if we're honest, have that little niggly sense of it that we have to support each other through. And, you know, it seems disassociated, it seems quite different, but I just enthrall around the beautiful pieces that you and all of these artisans make. And I feel somehow that it is deeply related to the same thing.
Right.
It's a vehicle and it's a way. You know, adornment is ancient. It's ancient.
Yes.
And there are so many ways of adorning. But as I think about it in my mind that loves symbolism and alliterations and metaphors, really think that it is a form that provides people to express who they are. And I value it so deeply in that symbolic way. I also employ it regularly in a symbolic way.
That's right. You've paid my mortgage a couple times here. Thank you.
You know, I'm glad Chris isn't here for that comment. But here, you know, yeah, I really feel the art form is wonderful. And I am not exaggerating when I say if I were going in my career to a difficult meeting and I knew it was going to be difficult, that I thought about what I would wear. I thought about, you know, what piece would help me focus my strength.
Oh, that's so good, because I feel too, like, you know, things like jewelry and the jacket you're wearing. We were talking about that in sound check from the Peach Berserk artist. Like, when you wear these things, and me, I've got Brenda Badome on. She's a good friend of mine. She's a clothing designer. And it's like you feel their energy on you, you know, and the older I get, I feel like I only want to buy things that are meaningful and carry a beautiful energy, because when I go to put them on, I think of that person. I feel how they, you know, inspire me. It's all of that good stuff. Yeah.
It totally is all that good stuff. And I'm pretty militant about buying Canadian. I too am the proud owner of several Brenda Badome pieces. I love her art.
Yeah.
All the way through high school, of course, as a girl from the country. In a time where fast fashion wasn't a reality, I made all my own clothes and designed some of them, you know, because art. Yeah. Because that's how I got to have different things. And so I do appreciate what goes into the workmanship, the skill behind not just the design, but the doing it and putting it together. Yeah. And I love that you're explaining all of these facets about you, because I feel like as a young woman, that was something I struggled with. And I wonder if young women today still struggle when you are a creative person. We're all creative, but you know, when you're outwardly, you know, you're singing and you're taking in all this literature and you're sewing, and then you're looking at all these beautiful things people are creating, and it's giving you this like emotional high, and you know, you're a special type of person who could at some point feel like, oh, I don't have any direction because I love everything, and how am I going to get my feet on the ground? And, you know, like back in my day, it would be like, oh, you know, that person, you know, even for me, it was like, my dad would say, you got to figure something out. Like, you can't be doing everything. Or even though he encouraged me, it was like, settle down was the message. Right. Yeah.
But my message now, I feel like, to people is like, don't settle down, like embrace that restlessness and really explore who you are and dive into everything, and tell your husband on the weekend to dye your hair pink, because that's what you feel like, you know, it's, we have to, it's not hurting anybody. It's helping the world.
I think.
Right?
I think you're right. I do. I think that creativity is a very healing element, not just for the creator, but those that receive it, see it, experience it. Absolutely right. And what a narrow world if you only did just one thing.
That's right. And I feel like sad sometimes for that generation. You know, my father, he worked at the same company his whole life, and he was a winemaker. And, you know, and my mom too, she was flour making, doing people's like income tax preparation on the side. Like, they were such entrepreneurs on the side. They always had like all these amazing creative things going on, but they stood in their jobs. Like, this is what you do. But it was different, and they didn't have the same advantages as my generation has. They had to come to this country and provide for their family, and they were grateful for all those opportunities, right?
Yeah.
So, it's just different. It's amazing. Yeah.
I think that's one thing that I appreciate very much about growing up on a farm was that there were things that you did that were the same things, but they were never the same.
Right.
Like when you
Okay.
went to gather the eggs in the morning,
Yeah.
the chickens were having a different day as well. And
Yeah.
so there, there's always a new day. There's always something interesting coming along.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things I just loved about my work in midwifery, that there
Mm-hmm.
was no two births are the same. I mean,
Right.
you are fully immersed in life and you are living a new experience every day of your life.
Exactly. Amazing. And it must be so humbling to
Yeah.
and so different. I was going to say this before too. You had two of your own children, so you experienced that amazing miracle of, having your own kids and feeling this instant madly in love, with this child. And then here you are experiencing it like being an observer of somebody
Yeah.
else doing it. It's incredible.
It is, I
Yeah.
think we don't talk enough about some of the grayer, unsettling aspects of being a new mom. With my first one, talk about imposter syndrome. There wasn't a day that I didn't think, what have I done? What are they thinking letting me take this baby home? Who's really going to take care of it? I mean, there's like, really, it's huge. It is
Yeah.
just a huge responsibility as well. And
Wow.
yeah, I think that's a normal part.
Yeah.
You just, and then you keep thinking, well, I can't wait till things get back to normal. And of course, they never do, because this is
Right.
it now, right? Yeah. It's
Yeah.
it's a life
That's
experience with all that a life experience will bring.
for sure. Yeah, exactly. And it's amazing now with the pandemic and this
Ooh,
lockdown, and it's so hard, but I don't know about you, Alana, but I look back a lot on my childhood and I feel grateful for all the little things my parents taught me to appreciate, because I can still appreciate, I can still feel grateful, I can still figure out a way to have a good time. It's okay. Like I don't feel like I'm suffering right now. Um, Obviously we don't want to have a pandemic, but I can still find the joy, and I think
yeah, that's wonderful,
you
isn't
know
it?
it
Yeah,
is.
it really is a lucky place to be
Yeah.
able to be living through this pandemic and be warm and fed
Hmm.
and find ways to be okay with it. I
Hmm.
do some days really feel a deep concern for those that aren't as fortunate,
Yeah.
and around the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Definitely. And
yeah, it
that
is a
goes
very
back
bizarre
to
time
it
out there.
is.
Oh,
And it goes back to the work you're doing with the Children's Health Foundation in London, like the Bubbles and Baubles. It's so important, and I think that's what everybody should do. If we all can go up, we all have our ups and downs, that's life, but if anyone's feeling down for a long period of time, I would say just go help somebody else. And it could be
yeah.
anything. Just go leave a casserole on somebody's doorstep and you're going to feel better, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, yeah,
It,
it's hard. I worry, actually.
yeah.
I worry about our kids. I worry about the impact on their emotional and mental well-being.
Yeah.
Back in those days, like your peer group, going to
Hmm.
school and being with the socialization,
Oh,
that piece of it, that's a hard part.
yeah.
And I can't imagine that they're not worried. That even
Yeah.
if they don't demonstrate it, they must be worried
For
because
sure.
all the adults are worried.
Hmm.
Yeah. But like
Yeah.
you said at the beginning, this is so Bubbles and Baubles. For those who don't know, um,
Hmm.
again,
Yeah.
my literary background, when
Hmm.
this concept came to me, and it came to me in about a 5-minute period one year, just boom, there it was. And I said, to Chris, I want to do this. He said, go do it. The Baubles, of course, are a special champagne drink. We use Prosecco, actually. That's the bubbly part that everyone would get as they arrived. And the Baubles are all the beautiful, beautiful jewelry that everyone makes and that you get to take home with you. And talk about a bright spot. I was, I think, saying on one of our planning calls that there isn't a day goes by that I don't put some of our beautiful jewelry on, because it gives me a visual lift. The color, the sparkle.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe subconsciously, I think I'm going out.
I love it.
Who knows?
Yeah. Oh, it's so great.
But our kids, their healthcare needs, those kids that need hospital care, be it cancer care or dialysis or surgery or trauma care, whatever it is, mental health care, those needs, they're not going away because of COVID.
Right.
They are still very, very much present, and if anything, amplified by COVID. So the need for us to continue to generate the money that helps support that care. And as I said, in LHSC's case, all of the new equipment purchases come from the money we raise.
Yeah.
It's greater, not less.
Wow.
So hopefully we can. I just got an update. I don't know if you saw I go to the phone quickly. We're over 80 tickets sold already.
Oh, good. So that was going to be my next question. So people who want to support you, who live out here, who wouldn't be driving to London to your event, they can now participate as well, right?
That's right,
because
they can.
Yeah. And do you have a limited amount of tickets you're selling, or are you sort of like, let's just have a big party?
We're sort of like, just let's have a big party.
Good. Yeah, I love it. That's so great. That's so great. Yeah. Good. Well, that's amazing, Elana. And I'm going to share again in the comments after our chat here on how people can access tickets. And I'm so honored to be a part of it. I can't wait. I'm going to be on screen for 10 minutes, all of us jewelers, and I'm really excited to talk to people, and it's going to be amazing. Yeah.
Tables will be turned a little. I'll be asking you the questions.
Yeah.
Like
that's going to be fun.
To do.
You know what's so funny? I had, when I was a kid, I remember I had some little cardboard box, and every time I'd chew a piece of gum, I would roll up the foil and put it in that box. And then if I found little gems or rocks or something, I'd throw it in there too. And I used to play with that in my cupboard. Wow. Like I thought the treasures.
The treasures.
So not that I knew what I was going to be when I grew up then, but definitely that was influencing something. It was probably watching all that Sonny and Cher with all her glitter, and
Oh, wasn't that wonderful? And ABBA.
Oh God, ABBA. I love it. Oh, I love all of that. Yeah. So great. Well, when we can see each other again, we'll have to do a ABBA marathon or something.
Ooh,
well, that could be the theme of the 2022 Bubbles and Baubles.
Wouldn't that be fun? ABBA music, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we might scare some people off if we did that, though, Monica.
Yeah. Well, you're the singer.
No.
I could do some dance moves. Yeah.
I get my grandchildren to do the singing. They're both really so gifted.
Great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm so happy you were here today, Elana, and I want to invite you to a little Instagram after party.
Yeah.
After this, so I'm going to say goodbye to you here. I'm going to put you back in that virtual back room, my fancy virtual back room, and I'll say goodbye to the folks, and then I'll come back to you and we can talk about how we're going to do the Instagram after party.
Excellent.
But thank you. You've been amazing.
Big hugs.
Big hugs to you too. Thank you all so much for tuning in today. Elana is absolutely amazing. I loved chatting with her. There was so much information. I had no idea about midwifery before this conversation with Elana. Besides, like I said, I knew that these women would come and hold a woman's hand while she was giving birth. And I was way off, far from it. There's so much more support that they offer. And It's great. We just witnessed some history, you guys, and it's awesome. So please, please, please go to brendabadome.com, use the coupon code, get to know her for 21% off of your order, and check your social media tomorrow because Brenda and I are doing a Valentine giveaway, and you're not going to want to miss out on that. Thank you, everyone. You're awesome. Have a wonderful day, and keep showing the world your sparkle. You do it so well. Bye.